Chapter 20, Betrayal. Despite the large numbers of students who'd come to the meetings, there were only about 40 of us who showed up we were going to go confront Verdict, and only about 15 of them were really serious about it. Most of them were a little worried because they had expected there to be more of us. Searchlight got up at the front of the room, alive with excitement and ready to see whether or not this would work. Okay, everyone, he said with an encouraging smile. I know we haven't had as much of a turnout as we did the last few times, but 40 is way more than I ever expected. Maybe 20 at the most. 40 is plenty. We'll outnumber them like 10 to 1. They won't dare try anything when there are so many of us, and if they do, well, we'll have strength in numbers. I thought we were just going to talk to them. A first term raised his hand hesitantly. Are you sure? We are going to talk to them, Searchlight said. At least this time we are. But if they won't back down, and if they keep picking on us, then we've got to keep standing up to them. It shouldn't be that hard once they realize we won't give up. They're just bullies, and bullies are cowards. It doesn't take anything to fight someone smaller than you, but it takes a lot of courage to stand up to someone bigger. I know all of you have that courage because you're here right now. He paused and looked out over the crowd. Are all of you with me? There was some quiet nodding of helms and even a little hesitant cheering. They were still scared, though. Good, Searchlight said. Close enough, at least. Let's go give Verdict our ultimatum. That got a little more cheering. Primus, what do I have to do to get these mecha excited about something? Searchlight wondered. He led the way into the hall. We made an impressive procession. There were 40 of us after all. And as we walked, what Searchlight had said sank into many of the students' processors, and they started to feel it too. It was almost like some sort of energy that brought their thoughts closer to those of the others with only a few outliers. It was almost like they were all listening in on each other's processors, like all of them could feel each other as they marched toward a common purpose. Searchlight led them and they responded to his emotions and ideas, emulating them. It hadn't worked until now, and it wasn't affecting me as much because I knew that one of the mechs who had doubts was Searchlight himself. He was certainly excited, but also a little apprehensive. I had to keep trying to convince myself that things would be fine and that this would work. But somehow, I couldn't imagine Verdict stepping back and promising not to bother us anymore. Mecha like Verdict just didn't do that sort of thing. We got in range of the yard and I knew my instincts had been right. They were ready for us. I wanted to tell them all to stop. I wanted to warn Searchlight somehow, but I didn't want anyone wondering how I knew. And so I kept quiet, as usual. We got out into the yard. Verdict was there, by the wall with 20 of the 6th and 7th term students who he'd convinced to join him. The strength that had been building between members of the crowd died down a little. There was a bit of a pile up at the door when Searchlight's group realized they were facing 4 times as many foes as they had thought, but we all got out into the yard eventually. Verdict was surprised that we'd gotten so many to join our cause, but he wasn't particularly worried. Hey, Searchlight, he said. Come to talk. Searchlight stepped forward. We've come to talk. This isn't just about me. Then hurry up. I don't have all Orn, Verdict said. I know about your silly little campaign and it isn't going to get you anywhere. We're tired of your slag, Verdict, Searchlight said. We're tired of being harassed and teased. We're tired of being made fun of. We're tired of getting shoved in closets or beat up or dangled off of rooftops. So we've come to tell you that we're through with this. We aren't going to put up with it anymore. Verdict crossed his arms and looked out over the gathered students, memorizing their faceplates. Really? This is the one time we're going to warn you. If you don't stop, we won't just let it go. From now on, if you hurt one of us, you'll answer to all of us. A sort of cheer rose from Searchlight's group. Verdict's following weren't feeling so sure of themselves. Half of them had been bribed or threatened into being part of this. Oh really? Verdict stepped forward until he was just arm's length from Searchlight. What are you going to do? Beat me up. He grabbed Searchlight and shoved him to the ground, then turned to the assembled students. You all know who really runs this school, he said. I can have any of you expelled. Don't listen to this idiot. He'll just get you into trouble. Searchlight got to his hands and knees and Motormaster and a 5th term grabbed him and pulled him to his PIDs, then dragged him backward a few steps toward Verdict's group. The students Searchlight had rallied were unsure of what to do next. So I guess this is it, Searchlight said. Your answer is no then. Verdict ignored him, still talking to the 40 students Searchlight had brought with him. You'll go back inside if you know what's good for you. If you leave now, I'll let you go. I'll even forgive you for this. Many of them were afraid. Some of them wanted to take Verdict up on his offer, but no one wanted to be the first to turn around and leave. On Verdict's side, some of the larger mechs were starting to look forward to a fight. We were going to get hurt. I could hear the promises in the mines across from us. They would beat us to the ground. There were fighters on Searchlight's side as well, hungry for vengeance. But we were the kind of mecha who normally got picked on. The vast majority just didn't want to be here. Maybe some of the students on Verdict's side had been coerced into this, but on Searchlight's side, they'd always been afraid. It wasn't fair to them. It wasn't fair that they should be part of this when all they wanted to do was go back inside and avoid a fight. A lot of students were going to be hurt. Verdict would get out of it, but Searchlight and Ratchet and I would be expelled. I saw clearly what had been vague before. This was the end. The tension was about to break, and no one, no matter how much they wanted to, was going to turn around and walk away. So I did. I stepped out of the group and turned around. Everyone watched as I walked to the door. I could feel their surprise. I could feel Searchlight's confusion. Wave, what are you doing? How can you do this? I thought you were with me on this. And then after I had gone back inside, the crowd burst in a flood of guilt and relief, and almost all of them turned and fled as well. I hid in the nearest classroom and only had to expand my range a little to find out what was going on. Outside through the minds of those few left, Breeze and Ratchet among them, I could hear Verdict laughing. Searchlight was still watching the door that most of his following had fled through, feeling hopeless and miserable. Verdict turned to face Searchlight. I don't even need to beat you up, do I? He said. That's what you get for trying to raise an army of cowards. Did you really think this would work? Searchlight glared at him. Verdict snorted. Let him go, he said. Motormaster and the other student, holding Searchlight, shoved him to the ground, and Verdict and the rest of his following went inside to chase the rest of the fleeing students further into the building. Searchlight had picked himself up. He looked out over the few who'd stayed. There were 9 of them, including Breeze and Ratchet. Well, he said. I guess at least I can see who's really serious about this. He looked down. You still listening, Soundwave? He was angry. Of course he was. Are we still going to do this? A mech asked. Yes, Searchlight said. We are. Verdict's answer is no. It's likely he'll keep coming after us, especially now. If any of you want out, I'm sorry, but it might be too late. We're with you, Searchlight, one of the others said firmly. There was a chorus of agreement from the others. I looked down. Okay, Searchlight said. Then, he wasn't sure what to tell them. Then let's talk about what we're going to do next. I had some good strategy ideas, but they work better if we've got more people. I want to hear your ideas before I put mine forward. I got up and left the classroom I was hiding in, then headed back toward my room while they tried to work out what to do. I passed the seeker in a hallway. He'd been looking out a window at the yard and he'd seen the whole thing and was thinking about it. I tried to slip past him, but he noticed me and recognized me. I don't blame you, he said. It was the first time I'd heard him say anything civil to anyone. He wasn't even glaring down his olfactory sensor at me. I stopped. Good way to lose a friend, though. I looked down. That's just the way things go. You're the lucky one. You understand. Stand up and tell the truth and you don't last long. Mecha, we are going to be hurt. He nodded. Yeah, I guess they were. And I was going to watch. I wasn't going to go get a teacher or go down to help, I was just going to watch. Pretty pathetic. So you think you saved them? He probably did. Well, everyone who left at least. I shrugged. Well, I'm done here, I think. Good job, Thundercracker, you just made this unfortunate grounded simpleton feel even worse about his situation. He pushed away from the window and walked past me. I took his place and looked out, but Searchlight and the others had gone inside. So, I waited for Thundercracker to get far enough away and then followed him down the hall in the direction of my room again. Finally, Ravage said when I got there. Are we going to Searchlight's room? I shook my helm and sat down, then pulled out my homework, hoping desperately that Searchlight wouldn't show up at my door and demand to know why I'd abandoned him out there. At the same time, I wanted him to come so I could explain myself. He didn't. I didn't see any of them until geology the next dorm. I sat in my typical spot by Searchlight, but I didn't say anything to him. He was waiting for me to, probably expecting an apology or explanation of some sort. But he wasn't going to talk first. He wasn't as angry as I expected him to be. He was angry, but even more than that, he felt hurt and betrayed, and in a lot of ways, that was worse. Ratchet was angry, though, and Breeze was confused. She kept thinking about how no one really knew what I was thinking because I was so quiet. She wondered why I had left when Searchlight seemed to trust me so much. Thundercracker was watching too, with a kind of curiosity that was mostly driven by boredom. All right, Retroquake said. Now, it's time for our first group assignment. Get in groups of 4 and 5. You're going to be going on a scavenger hunt through the lower levels of the city. A femme raised her hand. Is that safe? It is if you stick together, Retroquake said. And stay in the places you're supposed to be. Groups of 4 and 5. I looked down at my desk, then got up to walk away. They didn't want me in their group. No, don't, Bree said. Soundwave, wait. I turned to look at her. If he leaves now, he'll leave the group for real. I don't know why he left last Dorn, but I think Searchlight misses him and would give him another chance. You're still with us, she said. No, Searchlight said. He's not. I hesitated. Well, we need 4 people. Searchlight wouldn't look at me. We can find someone else. If he wants to leave, let him leave. What if he doesn't want to leave? Breeze thought. Retroquake came over. Group 3, he said, indicting the 4 of us and set a tablet on Searchlight's desk. Group 4. He pointed to the next group. Hey, Hot Pink, you go join Group 3. Thundercracker glared but didn't say anything. He didn't come over and join us either. Is there anyone who has a class after this one? Retroquake asked. No one did. Okay. Next Orn, instead of coming to class, I want all of you to get with your group and go fill out the worksheet. All of you. If anyone ditches their group, they'll get a 0 for the assignment. It's due the beginning of class in 2 Orns, understood. There was general nodding and agreement except for from Thundercracker, who had just realized that Lower City had a very real possibility of meaning underground. Retroquake went back to his lecture. After class, I went to my room and did all my homework. Then I sat and tried to remember what I had done with spare time back before I'd been friends with Searchlight. Are we going to Searchlight's room? Ravage asked. No. Why not? Did something happen? What's going on? I rubbed the smooth metal surface of my desk with one finger. Why not? Ravage asked again. I didn't want to explain it. We just aren't. Why? Stop. I said. He frowned at me and leapt up onto my desk. Are you all right? I'm fine. He climbed onto my shoulders and lay there, worrying about me. I leaned forward and rested my helm in my arms on the desk. Breeze came into my range. I hoped she was just passing by, but she stopped at my door and stood outside, trying to get up the courage to knock. She was going to come in here and ask me why. But I didn't want to explain it to her. I didn't actually care whether she hated me or not, or whether she understood why I left. I didn't know why she cared either. She almost turned and walked away. For an Astroskin, I hoped. But then she requested entry instead. Ravage looked up. I stood and went over to open the door. Hi, she said quietly, staring at Ravage. That big cat always scares me a little. I stared at her, hoping she'd do as she was still strongly tempted to and go away. But she took in a deep, calming vent and stayed. Can I talk to you? I didn't answer. Holy Primus, he really does that creepy looming thing right. Why is he so tall? It's not fair. Look, she said. I just wanted to talk. I guess I want to know why you left last Orn, but maybe that isn't what matters. You might not be able to tell, but you really hurt Searchlight's feelings leaving like that. I could tell. And if you're sorry about it at all, you have to go talk to him. I bet he'd forgive you. I almost shut the door on her. What did she know? She'd only been part of the group for a Decairn, and not even that. Why is this our concern? Her doings lifted a little and I was surprised by the force of her anger. Maybe I don't know you Mecha very well, but everyone's feelings matter. You just left us out there, and you brought almost all of the other students with you, but what really matters is that you left, with no warning or explanation or apology, like you just decided it didn't matter anymore. And Searchlight trusted you. I looked down. Why? Ravage wanted to know now too. We are scared, I said. They didn't want to fight. A lot of them we are going to get hurt. Breeze frowned at me. That's a lot to assume. No one had wanted to be the first to leave. It wasn't about whether or not we were scared, she said. It was about standing up for what was right. I shook my helm. We all have gotten expelled except Foo or Verdict? You don't know that, Bree said, but she was thinking now and she was starting to understand my reasoning, even if she didn't agree with it. And now the few of us who stayed are bigger targets. And you couldn't be certain that would end with fighting. I decided not to argue with her. I still think you should talk to Searchlight. No. Why not? I had abandoned him out there, and I still didn't think I had been wrong to do so. How could I explain that to him? Besides, he would be fine. Breeze was worried about him, but she didn't understand. Searchlight could make new friends if he wanted. He wasn't like her, or Ratchet, or me. He was good with other mecha. He would never be alone. He didn't need me. There's something unusual about him. I don't think it's just his face. I think there's something Searchlight and Ratchet aren't saying about him. What is it? I almost closed the door on her again. I guess I don't really understand this, Bree said. I've only been friends with you and Searchlight and Ratchet for a decade or so. But I don't think you should just leave. I was feeling really done with this conversation. So I stood there and waited for her to give up and go away. It didn't take too long. When it became apparent that I wasn't going to say any more and the silence got too awkward, she turned and left. I closed the door. What happened? Ravage asked. I explained to him what had happened the Orn before and then went back to sulking. Ravage draped himself across my shoulders and decided to sulk with me.